Hello, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. And as always, if you are a recurring viewer or a subscriber of my channel, thank you so much for your continued support. I really appreciate you all being here today. I wanted to just sit down and film a quick weekend reading update, going over some of the books that I finished in the last couple of weeks and what I am currently working on reading at the moment. So starting off with what I read last week, I got through two books, the first of which was Adams versus Jefferson, The Tumultuous Election of 1800 by John Ferling. This is a book that has been on my shelf for maybe 2 or 3 years now, and I sort of forgot that I had it. And the other day I was going through my shelves looking for any books that I wanted to donate to my local bookstore to get some trading credit, to get some new books in. And this is one that I sort of came across and realized I'd never read. And it's not very long. It's right around 180 pages. So I read this. I think it took me maybe 2 days, 3 days, not very long. And I really enjoyed it. I'm a fan of John Ferling's writing style. I feel that he always presents his subject matter in a really very well explained way without feeling like he is sort of talking down to you in any way, simplifies the complexity in a really digestible manner, which is really enjoyable. Also, a lot of his books that I've read so far, at least, have been on the shorter side, which I'm a fan of. I love long books. I love being able to, really get into a book and stay with it for a while. But there's also something really nice about having a shorter book like this that you can finish in just 2 or 3 days, sort of at most. The feeling of accomplishment that comes along with that is really nice. Then the next book that I finished was Patriots, The Men Who Started the American Revolution by A.J. Langguth. And I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. I may not be. This is a book that was recommended to me by Steve Donahue, and it was absolutely fantastic. This has easily become my favorite book on the American Revolution that I have read so far. That would be a list of probably 10 books, maybe at the most. So not a gigantic sampling size, but out of those that I have read and out of the handful of biographies of individuals that I have read, this has been my favorite so far. I believe this came out in 1988. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me see, trying to find the copyright page. Yes, this came out in 1988. I had never heard of this author before getting this recommendation from Steve. So this was my first of his books to read. I definitely am curious to go look and see if he has any other works that might be interesting to me. Some of my favorite things about this book, first of all, was the writing style itself. From page one, I was completely pulled in. There was never a dull moment. There was never even a quiet moment. There was always something happening. There was a lot of sort of source material used to recreate dialogue and conversations, so it felt very lively. It felt very current. It felt very much almost like a novel at times, even though it's not. It's straight nonfiction. There's no historical fiction elements at all. But it sort of has that really heavy storytelling quality, really leaning heavily towards the storytelling rather than just straight delivery of facts. And so that it made it read so smoothly. And then just the sort of the organization of the snapshots of each individual that were given and sort of how they fit into the broader story and how they connected to each other as well, really made it interesting to be able to see the overarching connection between the founding fathers and the different individuals who took part in the American Revolution. So if you have not read this book, or if you've not heard of this book, like I had not heard of it or read it, I would highly recommend finding a copy if you can and giving it a read. You will be very happy that you did. Then moving on to what I'm currently reading, I have 2 books that I am working through at the moment. The first is George Eliot's Middlemarch, and this is for Classics and Company 2024. I am currently listening to this on audiobook rather than reading it straight from the text. I think that might change here in a little bit. I've made it to chapter 17, so I believe that's around page somewhere in the mid 100s out of this, this 800-page tome. So my plan is to maybe listen to the 50% mark on the audiobook and then switch to reading it in the text. I'm really enjoying it so far. I haven't read anything by George Eliot before. So I'm very new to her writing style. I'm very new to her sort of storytelling style. But I'm really enjoying Middlemarch. One of my favorite elements of it right now is sort of the growing complexity as we get through the novel. We start with just focusing on just a very small group of characters, and then sort of as the story progresses, the cast list expands, and we start sort of encompassing more and more individuals' lives and their stories. So it makes it feel very expansive and very just very large, like we're reading about this entire town, which Middlemarch is the name of the town. So I will be giving more updates on this as I get into it more. I'm still formulating my thoughts on it, so I really don't want to say too much here until I really get a more solid footing on my thoughts and opinions of the book. And then the other book that I am reading is Kenneth Roberts' Rabble in Arms. This is Kenneth Rogers', I believe it's the second book in his Arundel series about Arundel, a town in Maine. And this is a historical fiction series about the American Revolutionary War. This is the one that was most appealing to me personally, as it fit directly with the time period of Patriots. So I wanted to have a nonfiction, and then I wanted to have historical fiction for this time period. I have not read any historical fiction about the American Revolutionary War ever. It's always just been nonfiction. So it's really fun getting a sort of a historical fiction view of the time period and being able to see sort of the creative license taken with some of the figures and individuals that I have read about in biographies or in sort of general nonfiction works, and sort of seeing how they might have been in real life. And so this has been really interesting. This one was published in, I believe it was early 1930s. So it's really interesting to sort of read it with I don't want to say the older, with an older style of writing, because it still feels very lively, but I'm a big fan of sort of more heavy detail in my fiction and more heavy descriptions in my fiction. And this book definitely gives you that. It's definitely very heavily weighted towards detail and description, and is not super concerned about moving too fast. It wants to sort of bring you along the story slowly, but you're not being yanked or pulled in any particular direction. And so for me, that's really a plus. I do enjoy more of the slow building tension when it comes to reading fiction. So this has been a great read. But both Rabble in Arms and Middlemarch will continue on well into next week. I'm about 30% through Rabble in Arms, and it's about 600 pages or so. So at least this next week will be Rabble in Arms. And then Middlemarch I'm going to be reading slowly up through the rest of the month and into next month, just really trying to enjoy it and savor it. So that's everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you would like, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now, and happy reading.